Hey guys, it's Joy here with Real Progressives. Tonight I have a gentleman who I have wanted to have on since I started the show, Mr. Vermin Supreme, who is running for president again in 2020, this time in the Libertarian Party. So thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Vermin.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me this evening. It's a pleasure to be here on the internet. As always, how is life on the internet for you?
It's always good when we can join We the People and hear their thoughts on things. And you know, as a presidential candidate, that's very important that you do that.
I am the people's candidate, and after all, you are the people. And
this is true.
A good match like that.
Corporations are people as well, though, right?
At this point in time, apparently, yes, they are. They are legal entities, and there you go. And I think, and they someday they will have the right to vote. We can only hope. Currently, of course, they can only vote with their money, and I guess that's a thing in its own right, because money is a vote in its own way. And someday we'll be able to vote with money under my new Voter Reform Act. And the more money you have, the more votes you'll be able to cast. Yes, and of course my tax reform. It's similar to my tax reform because that also involves a lot of money. But at least you get scratch tickets in exchange for each dollar that you pay into the system, and I think that's fair. I think a lot of people complain that you know, taxes are theft, or taxes are mandatory, or that they're being collected at gunpoint or at the threat of the violence of the state. And I think once we start offering people the opportunity that you know, maybe they can choose what their which programs which road their taxes might pay for, and they get lottery tickets in exchange. I think that will really change things. People won't even mind giving trillions of dollars to billionaires anymore.
Yeah, right on. So if the rich people get more votes, does that mean people like basement dwellers like myself, just our votes won't count? Because kind of like they don't really now.
I'm sure you'll get vouchers of some sort, maybe some sort of subsidies. Another part of my tax reform proposal does include taxing the 1% at 1% and the 99% at 99%. I think that will create a more fair and just America. Thank you. I'm Vermin Supreme.
Awesome. It sounds like a plan. So Josh, okay, so that's rude. Can someone get rid of Josh? But anyway, so there you go.
I missed the rude comment. What did it say?
Oh, it was about me. Don't worry. It was about my ugly tattoos. So
okay, I can't even see any tattoos. So yes. Hey,
so he's very nice progressive by talking about tattoos. So anyway, you are running as a libertarian this time, and yeah. You've run. How many times have you run now?
Let's see. Some people claim that I ran in 1988, but it's generally understood that I started working the New Hampshire primary since 1992. I've been up there exploiting that event. It's a wonderful event. It's a very small state, but it is the first in the nation primary. And as such, every candidate on the tickets come on down, and that can be like 20 different candidates, Republican and Democrats. And they all have campaign headquarters. They all have campaign buses. They all have campaign appearances. The international media is there. So it's very easy to interact and bird dog the candidates and catch up with them, and you know, have fun with them and have fun at their you know, with their campaign workers. It's just it's an event on the political landscape in America that I believe is terribly underutilized by activists. But I have been able to exploit the nature of this event, you know, for the past 30 years. So anybody who has any interest in messing around with a ready-made circus, you should come up to the New Hampshire primary. There's speeches to go. There's people to meet, and I've always maintained it. Very, very impressive. You could shut that stuff. People have committed civil disobedience, to protest various policies of various candidates. But the beautiful thing about the New Hampshire primary is there's pretty much no riot police, quite frankly. They do have the national debates. They have like protests. And of course, in the New Hampshire primary, that's where I started meeting and working with libertarians. It was on the street, because it's so high profile. New Hampshire has a very developed libertarian culture based on the Free State Project. It is a project where the Free State Project has put out a call to libertarians across the country to move to New Hampshire. And they are hoping to meet a critical mass that will give them an electoral advantage in the state, giving more opportunity to put forth the platforms and their the principles. And so they have just recently the number of people pledged, and it is a fairly successful project, but during the New Hampshire primary, of course, anybody with an axe to grind is out protesting. And so the left would be out, the right would be out. And because of the nature of New Hampshire, a lot of these people know each other, they work with each other, and it's much more cordial than in a lot of other places across the country where, protesting the candidate for one thing, and the libertarians would be there protesting the candidate against the other perspective. And it's a beautiful thing. And essentially, when I have been campaigning up in New Hampshire, when we did the pony protest, for example, I had to sue the city of Concord in order to be able to bring ponies up to a Hillary Clinton book signing. And because she co-opted my platform in her attempt to discredit Bernie with the whole free pony, Bernie is all about the free pony thing. I felt it was important to go up there and call her on that. So I ended up having to sue the city of Concord, New Hampshire, in order to be allowed to bring ponies, live living ponies, to this Hillary Clinton book signing. It was a very successful protest. We had a whole lot of fun, a lot of music, a lot of signs, and true to New Hampshire, there was both people of the left, Bernie supporters, and there was the libertarians who believe that there is no such thing as the free pony. But yet we were out there all peaceably assembling together behind the banner of Vermin Supreme, purely asking for free ponies in a very absurd fashion. So it's become a uniting front. And I've utilized the free ponies and the pony-based economy as a device to essentially short circuit a lot of the economic arguments that people have, because my following, or if you recall, my original video in 2012 at the New Hampshire debate, the one that went viral, where I glitter bombed Randall Terry and introduced the world to the concepts of mandatory toothbrushing and free ponies. Because that particular presentation was truly a critique of the system as a whole, and not against any particular party or against any particular politician, it was accepted as a nonpartisan presentation and was successfully popular with those of the right and left-leaning persuasions. And so I was able to create this instantaneous fan base or base of supporters that is very wide and fairly shallow, but it does in fact encompass, far right and far left. My original base, of course, was left. I came up as a left anarchist, and I've sort of become a libertarian anarchist because I've found that there is so much actually in common between my feelings as an anti-state, anti-government, anti-police state, anti-prison, pro-sex work. I mean, just all of these things that a lot of people intuitively agree with and feel that is correct are in fact enshrined in the Libertarian Party's platform. And so I have found myself, and initially it started, and I will say that yes, in 2008 you will find quotes of me bad-mouthing libertarians. I would say I had this line that said, "Libertarians have no soul." But once again, that was coming from a place of, my own ignorance. It came from a place of prejudice. I simply did not know enough about libertarians and libertarianism, and I did not know enough libertarians. Once I started meeting them and seeing their community and how their communities operated, I will say, one of the things that I initially had a conceptual difference with was the framing of charity. That because I'm all about disengaging with the state. And I've always maintained that in order to successfully disengage from the state, we need to create alternative systems that provide similar services in very different ways, but bottom down, grassroots, people-based solutions to the problems. And in my mind, I have always contextualized that in the framework of mutual aid. Peter Kropotkin being a pretty informative philosopher on my political thinking early on, and the concept of charity, it stuck in my craw a little bit. I felt it was sort of like there was this implied, tossing down, as if it was a throwaway act. But the more I hung with libertarians and joined the groups and had an understanding. I mean, they indeed have a libertarian disaster relief efforts. They have what I would term as the libertarian mutual aid societies in a sense. The libertarian meme website. It was a Facebook group, Libertarian Memes. It was smashed by Zuckerberg's. And one of the sequels, the LMMY community, exists as a charitable exercise. They have a patron. A lot of their members, I think they have 18,000 members. They chip in, and they are constantly bankrolling charitable acts, and people nominate other people. They see somebody who's struggling, and this group of people is constantly giving out money. So I felt that, this knowledge really sort of to help change my mind and help me understand it in a way that I could, in all good conscience, work with. And of course, sure, I ran for president, in 2016 for the Libertarian nomination for a bit. But then that was a little bit of a lark. I mean, ultimately, I would say this year is my campaign has become more real and more based in reality, and the interface with reality has become greater. I have an actual campaign staff. I have an actual booker person, a person booking my tours. I have a social media director. There's a lot of people feeding into my delusion. It has been a campaign of infinite potential, and I have brought it to a level that is, for a guy with a boot on his head, talking about ponies and zombies, I believe that I have brought that pretty darn far. And now I think it's getting a little bigger, a little better every time. Yes, you on the screen. I bet you have a question there.
Yeah, I actually I met you in at Occupy DNC back in 16 when we were protesting that shit show convention. And I had only ever seen you make the best memes in the entire world. I don't know if you do them or someone does, but they're phenomenal. So I knew you from those.
They are crowdsourced. I don't even know how. I mean, I barely could make a meme. I could upload it to a generator, but no, it's amazing. It's quite amazing. It's a crowdsourced project. It's a crowdsourced campaign.
That's awesome.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, you and I found you so kind and so nice, and you know, we had a really nice conversation, and you said you were worried that we'd run out of ponies if you won. And I said, you know, that's certainly plausible. So why don't you do this where you just give ponies to those who vote for you? And then that's more of an incentive and you won't need as many. But you can also just entice them to have more sex and make more ponies.
Yes, of course.
That may work as well.
Because that is a thing because there is a lot of misunderstanding about pony-based economics, and a lot of people do in fact ask who is going to pay for the free ponies, and obviously the answer is nobody pays for the free ponies because they are free. And then I simply explain to them that when a boy pony meets a girl pony and they become friends, they might make love and make little ponies. Absolutely.
But they're married first.
Pardon?
They're married first. You skip that part.
Yes, of course. Ponies are subject to marriage by the state under Supreme administration, naturally. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to plug my new book. It is called I, Pony, Blueprint for a New America. It is available at iponythebook.com. And this book is a book about the future, long after a Vermin Supreme presidency, long after everybody has their pony, long after everybody, zombie power fuels the nation, secret dental police have checkpoints every couple 100 yards, and it's a wonderful dystopia. And so this book is a warning from the people of the future to you, the people of the past, their present, or your present, their past rather, that Vermin Supreme is a madman and must be stopped. It's all right here in my new book. Also, there's a lot of the information about how we will supply all the ponies is in this book. If would you like me to read a little bit, perhaps?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. There were harsh political realities when President for Life, Vermin I, took office. During the days of his ascent to the White House, there were over 300 million Americans living within America's previous borders. At the time, there were only 200,000 ponies in the whole country. It was a recipe for civil unrest. And those were not just political realities, those were realities. There was a very stark choice to make. Would it be the mass execution of some 299,800,000 Americans in order to achieve proper pony-human parity? Or would the answer be something else? It is certainly true that such a mass execution would create jobs. It would also lessen the country's dependence on foreign oil. It would be great for the environment. But there were some clear drawbacks to consider. Mostly, they were just questions of ethics and public relations. I could stop there. I could keep going. Your choice.
No, keep going. I'm intrigued.
Okay. During this time of widespread civil unrest, All options were on the table. The dental high command was put on high alert. The dental re-education camps were readied. Homeland Dental Security coordinated with the nation's dental police departments. The militarization of America's dental police forces had been a great idea that was about to pay off, and not just an incidence of lower gum disease nationwide. There were riots in the streets of numerous cities. The pulsating water pick cannons knocked rioters off their feet and knocked the plaque right off their teeth. The population was demanding their ponies that were nowhere in sight. It was a time of heightened international tensions. No one would have blamed Tyrant Supreme if he had ordered the National Dental Guard to carry out a full-scale massacre of the civilian population. It was high time, actually. The veneer of civility that had protected Americans from such real political unrest for quite some time was wearing thin. The quaint and oft-repeated notion that it can't happen here was truly just a lack of imagination. It did not help at all that recently installed dictator forever, Vermin Supreme, was completely and utterly insane.
Yes.
And that's it from this book. This book also has a bunch of amazing illustrations. It's practically a picture book, quite frankly. It's available at iponybook.com. I'll show you a few of the pictures if I can make it work, you know, because I'm working backwards and stuff. But there's some of the artwork. Let's see, it's got a little pony erotica in there. In fact, I've started the publisher of Bob Tomistic's book.
That's amazing.
So the book is available. I've been talking to the publisher. We've recently decided that we're going to start sending copies of our book behind the bars into prisons to political prisoners. And we are going to have to censor that particular illustration because it won't make it past the prison censors. So the publisher is actually having to create an entire new publication that essentially doesn't have that illustration in it, so that we will have a prison friendly book that we can send directly from the publishers at Amazon and stuff. So that's cool.
So is this the book isn't geared towards furries or is it, or?
I think it's a book that can be enjoyed by any freak, any weirdo, anybody who's a Vermin Supreme fan. It is some autoerotic fan fiction. You know, I won't say it's for fans only, but I think people who do enjoy the mythology that I've created will enjoy it. Other people will probably be confounded and confused by it. But it's perfect gift for everybody on your shopping list who's a Vermin Supreme fan. Also, of course, we're opening up a new merch store online. That's going to be coming up soon. I think that's called shopverminsupreme.com. Where also, this is an amazing item. This is an autographed, glitter encrusted necktie. And these will be available on the site. Also, these exciting items are indeed available as premiums if you were to donate to my political campaign, because part of my crossing over the imaginary campaign into a real campaign has involved obtaining a 527 political organization designation, registered with the IRS. It's called Pony Up America. If you want to write checks out to Pony Up America, then it's legit, and it's a beautiful thing. It's money that is tax exempt. It's money that if I raise the money, I can spend the money, and that's the way the thing works. It's a weird political scam, and I'm also hoping to reach the threshold of federal election matching funds, and if I am able to raise $5,000 in each of 20 states in donations of $250 or less, the Federal Election Commission will match that.
Oh, sweet.
So if I successfully can raise $100,000 spread out over 20 states, it will become $200,000, and every dollar after that will be doubled. It's quite a scam, I think, and it goes. You can only spend it on legitimate campaign expenses during the primaries. So it's a goal, and you get to so I'll be able to piss all sorts of money away. I can buy live ponies, because live ponies are certainly an legitimate campaign expense. Maybe a blimp. Ron Paul had a blimp. I could have a blimp. Could mean a tour bus. It could mean billboards. It could be putting crazy commercials on television, for example, to confuse the population. So there's a lot of amazing possibilities that have been there, and I hope to utilize them this time around.
I would love to see a dance video with you and some like go-go dancers. I think that would just, I mean, you'd be president. That would sell it.
Well, it's hard to outdo the John McAfee video with all the bath salts and hookers that he did.
Yeah, that was something.
I'll see what I can do. I'll do it much more tastefully, of course, because that's my MO.
Oh yeah.
There are some very good musical singles. There's some. One of the things of being a meme, not only am I included in these macros with words, but part of being a meme, I've also been turned into songs, and there's like dozens of Vermin Supreme themed songs on the internet, and some of them are quite good.
I saw one of them, and it was impressive.
Yes, and it's part of this crowdsourced, fan-based furtherance of this ridiculous thing that I think it's one of the best things you can do is come up with something that everybody can play with, and it's a joint effort. It's improv, it's audience participation. It's just so much fun, and I think that's one of the things that people respond to, that they are included in it, they are encouraged to take part in it. It's not a completely passive experience like say a corporate television comedy or something that's pretty much one way, and there's just, I don't know, I've been very, very lucky and very, very blessed to be able to find this niche, this small niche, running for president. It's a small thing, but it's so national and international in scope if you work it hard. And if you come up with a wacky enough idea or something off the wall, and you can get the media to bite. I mean, shit, look at D's nuts. I mean, boom. I mean, how simple was that? And it took me many years for the media industrial complex to sort of degrade to the point where I would make it past the editors. I mean, a lot of the time early on, before the internet and all, a lot of the media were there. They would see me, and they were, became an audience of sorts. And I knew that they would use little clips of me in their Christmas party reels or whatever. But it took many years to break through, the editors, before they decided that, I guess this guy's newsworthy enough, or whatever. And now I am, as a result, the elder statesman of wingnuts, it seems.
Is that going to be on your Your tombstone?
There's who knows. It's still too early. It's still too early to tell.
It is, but that would be kind of amazing. There's a few questions. I forgot who asked this one, but somebody wanted to know, instead of a wall like Trump wants, would your searches be more like a dental dam?
Yes, very good.
I think that was Mark. Oh no. That's why we need unicorns instead of ponies.
They can jump over walls. Yeah, dental dams, definitely dental dams. That's I like it. I can't believe I've never used it in my rants.
Mark, you win, you badass. That's awesome. Somebody else wants to know if you were behind the reason why Beto felt it necessary to live stream him getting his teeth cleaned.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was advising him on that. His people were reaching out for dental advice, and I said, what better way to endear yourself to the American public than have your teeth cleaned for a live stream. It's really plebeian. And it just shows those nice pearly whites to their greatest advantage. Yes. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to first do my it's a combination Donald Trump and Marco Rubio. It's sort of a medley, so enjoy. Okay, that was the Trump part. And I guess the Marco Rubio is just like reaching for it. And
well, cheers, Vermin.
Thank you. And of course, here are my dental records.
Okay, there you go, Mark.
I'm the only candidate in this race at this time that is releasing their dental records. I guess they're upside down. Let me hold them up right there. See if I can get it close enough to the camera so that maybe you can read it. I don't know. Can you see my name there?
Yep.
Okay, and you can see my dentist's name, and those are my teeth. And
they look legit. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Them are my choppers.
I just went to the dentist yesterday, and I got praised. So
good. Oh, good for you.
I think that's amazing that you gave your dental records before everyone else. I find that extremely important.
I think so. I believe the other candidates are soft on plaque. That is all there is to it.
That's a good point. Absolutely. What a lot of people want to know what the symbolism is with a boot on your head. Or, I mean, I know it looks awesome, but what inspired you to start?
I believe that, the boot is a simple, elegant, and very effective device that people very much responded to. I've been wearing it since 1991. I was at a rainbow gathering in the woods. It was raining out. I had a pair of galoshes. I put one on my foot. I put the other on my head. My head stayed dry. My foot got wet, but people really liked it. And they felt that, it brought smiles to the people. And, a big part of what I like to do is make people smile and laugh. And so it became something that I wore up at the New Hampshire primaries. I developed various stock answers for it. If somebody asked me, what's with the boot, I would just throw back. It stands for all that is good with America. The ability to wear a boot on your head if you want to. I would oftentimes, the media would ask me, and I would tell the media that the boot is a pile of shit, and you, the media, are the flies that buzz around it. that was a little edgy and a little, critique, but I think it was valid. Of course, the boot is a signifier. It lets people know as I'm approaching them or they see me that what I'm about to present may very well not be linear in nature. And if you take my photograph in any situation, pretty much, any crowd setting, any place setting, and show that picture to a child and say, what is wrong with this picture? Then it's very easy for them to say, that guy has a boot on his head. So I think just the fact that it's wrong, okay, that it's not normal, and it's sort of me, subtly or maybe even not so subtly, twisting reality and making people question what is, what's up with that. That's not normal. And it is a lot of fun. If I walk down the street, a lot of times, the adults might just flat out ignore me. But their kids are like, that guy has a boot on his head, tugging on their parent's sleeve and they have to explain that. So yeah, it's just, and of course it wasn't, I didn't always wear it. I was wearing it at the New Hampshire primary for a number of years, but during the conventions I had different headwear. But obviously in 2012, after I went viral and became a meme, I was pretty much the boot was affixed to my head thereafter, and as was the beard. I couldn't shave it if I wanted to. It's just part of the look now.
Yeah, hell yeah. You're getting a lot of love in the comments. It's pretty great. We needed this humor. Smiles are good. People want to know what else is on. Sorry. People want to know what else is on your platform. Do you support Medicare for all?
Medicaid for some.
Medicaid for some.
And of course, my version of Medicaid includes my health care plan is 1 apple per person per day. An apple a day will keep the doctor away. So that right there will cut down on America's medical bills, billions of dollars for the price of an apple a day. Free aspirin and Band-Aids. I think Band-Aids and aspirins are cheap enough that we could pass those out. And if you end up being really sick, you can go to Canada. We'll ship you up to Canada. And that. But did you know that prior to 1964, all health care was cash based? There was no, and everybody could afford it. And it was essentially, it seems or appears that the more the insurance industry became involved with it, and I suppose that there's arguments that the cost of medicine, but by its technological advances, has just gotten out of control. But a lot of that is insurance and the insurance industry taking their cut, and of course the pharmaceutical industry taking their cut. So I think if a lot of the subsidies and the government controls, were removed, and as a libertarian leaning person, yes, the government's always mucking things up, and generally their involvement can only spell trouble. So yes, I think once again I do believe that it could run a lot better without the government involvement, but also without the insurance industry's involvement and the pharmaceutical industry's involvement. Am I suggesting that we nationalize it? Certainly not. I'm all about the private property as a libertarian, of course. And might I take an opportunity to just read a little bit from the statement of principles of the Libertarian Party?
Sure.
Because obviously this is the progressive is in the name of your podcast, and there's obviously a very progressive audience that we're talking to probably. And, like I said, there's just a lot of commonalities. But I would say, I think the criticism is that progressives are for more bigger government. But we're more about responsibility. And, as an anarchist, of course, I had discussed, weaning off of the government, trying to come up with private alternatives of this nature. So I'm just going to read this a little bit because it speaks to me, and it's one of the things that helped me understand it. We, the members of the Libertarian Party, challenge the cult of the omnipotent state and defend the rights of the individual. We hold that all individuals have the right to exercise sole dominion over their own lives and have the right to live in whatever manner they choose, so long as they do not forcibly interfere with the equal rights of others to live in whatever manner they choose. Governments throughout history have regularly operated on the opposite principle, that the state has the right to dispose of the lives of the individual and the fruits of their labor. Even within the United States, all political parties other than our own grant to government the right to regulate the lives of individuals and seize the fruits of their labor without their consent. We, on the contrary, deny the right of the government to do these things and hold that where governments exist, they must not violate the right of any individual, namely the right to life. Accordingly, we support the prohibition of the initiation of physical force against others, the right to liberty of speech and action. Accordingly, we oppose all attempts by government to abridge the freedom of speech and press, as well as government censorship in any form, and the right to property. Accordingly, we oppose all government interference with private property, such as confiscation, nationalization, and eminent domain, and support the prohibition of robbery, trespass, fraud, and misrepresentation. Since governments, when instituted, must not violate individual rights, we oppose all interference by government in the areas of voluntary and contractual relations among individuals. People should not be forced to sacrifice their lives and property for the benefits of others. They should be left free by government to deal with one another as free traders, and the resultant economic system, the only one compatible with the protection of individual rights, is the free market. So that's essentially the statement of principles, or that's the preamble, and then they go into the individual statements. It's online. If you typed up Libertarian Party platform, you could read it for yourself, and might be surprised with how much you agree with it. Obviously, libertarians have a bad rap, and I think that bad rap was one that sort of was, some people find off-putting, but it's I think it's a chestnut. They're not all greedy. They're not all selfish. They're more about freedom and liberty, and just sort of a different understanding of personal responsibility. They lead with certain things that perhaps we need to work on messaging, and that's part of why I want to help the message be spread. I want to be able to translate that message, if you will, to more of the statists, my statist fan base, or my left-leaning fan base, which I certainly have great respect for, and many agreements with on many issues also. I'm a uniter, not a divider. What can I tell you?
And I know that you're a very caring person and a very loving person. You make posts about helping people with suicide, giving the correct numbers to reach out, things like that. There are some people in the comments who are saying that they have concerns with the words like privatization. I think some of the it can be taken as I got mine. Now what?
Yes, obviously, but I think it's it's just sort of the context within where and the words we're using, and perhaps there's more subtleties involved. Privatization, perhaps it could mean, getting the government out of some business that it has no business being in the first place. And so in the government, in the whatever function that they might be attempting to fill, can be more efficiently filled by the free market, by the private individuals, private companies that whose business it is to specialize in that particular form. Yes. Yes, I now once again, I'd say as a rule, and my understanding of libertarianism, completely against crony capitalism. Crony capitalism is pretty much the current state of affairs in the U.S. It's a completely not level, unfair playing field that is enforced by the government with all these various regulations, if you will, but also a lot of them are unnecessary and contribute to the problem more so than the solution. It may be argued.
Right. That makes sense. Do you think that this that can be as advantageous if there's only a sect of people who ascribe to that?
I'm not sure I get the question.
Well, essentially, if, I mean, anarchy and everything, like, awesome, I get it. But at the same time, if there's only a group of people who are down with that, is it going to be advantageous for everyone else? Wouldn't it need to be something, wouldn't there need to be solidarity in that? What's that?
I would say absolutely. And of course, I think we're all working towards our own version or visions of utopia. I think we're all trying to work on making the world and our country and our communities better places. And I think people certainly have honest disagreements how we can reach our utopias, or even what our utopias look like. I believe that it based in reality in the current structure and the status quo and the way everything is currently functioning in terms of the federal government, for example, changing it rapidly is difficult. I mean, I would be more for a more gradual and orderly deconstruction, unlike the current alleged president of America, Mr. Trump, who seems to just take pleasure in being a wrecking ball, if you will. I myself am, personally, I'm very aware of the potential for human suffering during the transition times. And of course, this is what we must try and take care of. As libertarians, we would argue that the free market will provide. Now, myself, of course, it's more about the invisible hooves of the marketplace and the transition to Ponatopia, which is going to be a beautiful thing.
Hell yeah!
So, this is a wonderful thing about my candidacy, because here I am, and we've been having a very serious discussion, but I can also pivot on a dime and start talking about ridiculous things if I believe that I'm talking about things that might be readily disagreeable to a large part of my audience. I believe, I've also become, on a certain level, disingenuous, and I'm comfortable with being disingenuous. So if I'm asked a difficult question, I have no problem dancing around it, or deflecting, or simply pivoting to something else. So yes, if I'm feeling like things are getting a little too real or reality-based, I almost have to retreat into my imaginary campaign where I am king. Thank you very much. I'm Vermin Supreme, and I hope you understand that when I'm dodging your questions, it's simply because I'm assuming you're not going to like the answers.
I've interviewed over 100 candidates in 2018. I welcome honesty. So, hey, bring it. I love it. So, But as far as, you know, the 2020 election, who is your biggest threat? Who are you worried will take your throne?
Well, you know, there has been this tear in the time-space continuum. I think it happened right around Election Day, 2016. I think. But I have very smart scientists working on repairing the time-space continuum in the past, in the present, and the future. And I am confident, somewhat, at this point, that we will return to a supreme administration, anytime now. It could happen anytime now. You know, if I'm forced to run again and become president again, fine, I will go back and kill baby Hitler again. Yeah, I think that's when it happened. Apparently, I killed one of Hitler's siblings. I didn't do my homework. I didn't realize that he had brothers and sisters, and I mistakenly offed one of those kids. And you know, I'm sorry about that. However, that doesn't.
Did they have one testicle as well?
That doesn't make me a Democrat. Jeepers creepers. Zing. And so that's a cheap shot in the news. Thank you.
What is
okay, yes, so, and of course William Weld. William Weld is sort of like, I don't know, he's left the Libertarian Party, now he's a Republican again. You know, I wish he could make up his mind, because I can't make up mine. So, you know, he's in my way in the New Hampshire primary, quite frankly. He could affect my whole bit. But really, it's always been, you know, people on the outer left and the outer right that have really been my base of support and voters. It's been, you know, people who support Ron Paul would vote for me. People who support Dennis Kucinich would vote for me. You know, the people on the outer fringes and where it sort of meets somewhere in the middle. And I think I'm where it meets on that far side of the curve. And goodness gracious, go figure. Yeah.
Well, I see a bunch of comments that say if Bernie doesn't get the nom, you're their choice. So
yes, and I believe that's true, and I believe there's a lot of people fickle politically. It seems to me that a certain amount of people were supporters of Bernie, and they flipped over to Trump. I saw some of that happening, and that was curious. But I guess it has to do with people, you know, part of being uninformed, misinformed, and not taught enough about civics and the various economics and logic and things. I mean, you know, things that help people become good citizens. You know, understanding logic and fallacies and how to discern, you know, facts from fiction and how the country works. And you know, I saw a recent poll where 60% couldn't name all three branches of government. You know, I think it's terribly advantageous to the ruling class and our rulers to have a dumbed down population and a population strung out on opiates and a population that is too busy trying to make the rent than to take part in democracy and what have you. You know, as a left anarchist, I've always been about, you know, the dissolution of the government. And, well, the current president's doing a bang-up job of it. But there's, you know, people can and might be left in the lurch. But, you know, it's funny. Things can happen. I mean, you know, tomorrow there could be 10,000 layoffs. You know, a company could move and all these people are screwed. There could be another hiccup in the economy, you know, circa 2007, 2008, where all of a sudden, you know, people lost tens of thousands of dollars in their IRAs and stuff. You know, in the foreclosure crisis, and that had ripple effects. And so, I don't know. The market will provide.
Well, Sandy said she thinks you'll be a shoo-in.
Ah, good one.
Mark said his stripper name is Kinky Boots. So
nice, good one. Very nice.
Dental Dam guy.
Yep, very good. And of course, the Libertarian Party is the only party that has an explicit sex worker, a pro-sex worker platform.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that is really good. Let me see if I can find it real quick. If I can't find it real quick, I'll skip it. Sex work. The Libertarian Party supports the decriminalization of prostitution. We assert the right of consenting adults to provide sexual services to clients for compensation, and the right of clients to purchase sexual services from consenting sex workers. We are, of course, against human trafficking. We are against forced servitude. We are against, humans as slaves. We are so against that. That is against everything that the Libertarian Party stands for. But we are for the open, free, consensual, informed exchange of it. I know that there's many people there's many disagreements, but I believe it's the only right and fair thing to do. SESTA and FOSTA are bad bills. They got passed under the guise of trying to prevent or alleviate human trafficking, but it has just driven it further underground, and it has made it harder for honest, otherwise law-abiding and often tax-paying sex workers to make their living, and it has made their lives considerably more dangerous because they can't be open. They can't openly advertise and allow their services, and it's just so much. I mean, it was just a lot easier. I mean, it works in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
other cities are looking at it. I understand that there are arguments that is not a good thing, and that it's an affront to humanity. And I believe people are entitled to those opinions also, of course. And yes.
I mean, like, you don't have to get a prostitute, but, like, why would you care if someone else did? I guess that's what I don't understand. Like, legalize it. Why? Just go for it. I mean, hell, if everybody got laid, we'd be a hell of a lot more happy. There's too much sadness in this world. Like, let them do their thing.
Yes, it's a service, and it's a very valuable service. Everybody deserves love, and everybody needs love and human touch. But sadly, in this current state of society, not everybody does. There's a lot of loneliness. I'm reminded of the Simon and Garfunkel song, "The Boxer," and the come-ons from the whores on 42nd Avenue, and I must admit I found some comfort there. And it's sad when people can't get the love, sex, and affection that they so desire. But why must we criminalize alternatives to that?
Yeah, right on. You actually, you touched on this a few times about how you are against the police state. My question, I guess, would be how I would really love to see you debate Kamala Harris. Like, I guess, like, what do you think what would be your major bone of contention?
Oh, I think it would be the mass incarceration, the prison industrial complex as the political lobby, as a source of misery, pure misery. I think the prison system is hell. I think the United States has more people in prison than any other country. We have 10% of the world's population, 25% of their prisons, and it has become just a huge, huge industry, and and a lot of money at stake, and that has allowed them to pay and bribe and contribute to politicians, and there's this incentive in the prison industrial complex to have more crime, more criminals, and create more criminals. And just the whole way the criminal justice system is set up, the people on probation, the 3 strikes, you're outlaw. I mean, people doing life sentences for some minor crime, that might be their 3rd strike. The drug war created to fill these prisons. Obviously, I don't think I have to say it out loud. The Occupy movement had a chant, and it went as follows: shit's fucked up and bullshit. Shit's fucked up and bullshit. And I think to the casual observer, it's a provable statement. Shit's fucked up and bullshit. And yes, the militarization of the police and the police power and the police killing of unarmed civilians, black and white together, united, dead, killed by cops. It's just a continuous outrage. It's a slow motion civil war against the population in a real sense. I can't be talking about class war anymore because I'm a libertarian candidate, but in my left anarchist early years, yeah, I would be talking about the there's no war but class war. And of course, it's the ruling class that is at war with the lower classes. And I mean, you look at the income distribution and you look at the facts and figures, and you just see how much wealth has been transferred straight on up from the lower quadrant to the upper crusts. Yes. How do I reconcile that with the libertarian ideal of pure unbridled capitalism? I think because it is the government is so involved in it, and because it has become such a, I mean, it's essentially currently a capitalist, social, subsidized capitalist fusion hybrid system, and I think we need to wipe it all out and give everybody their ponies and start again. Thank you.
I like the thank you at the end. What would you like to leave our audience with? What do you want to leave the viewers with? What do you want them to take away?
Well, I just want to thank you for entertaining the possibilities, for allowing me this time. I just want to let people know that you can make a difference as an individual. I think kindness is very important. I think love is very important. We need to have more love and more caring for one another. It's very easy to scroll down your Facebook feed and find somebody who's having some problems, and a lot. And what I've noticed, occasionally somebody says, "I need to talk to somebody," and they put their phone number in there. They put their phone number on a post and they put it out in the world. That person needs somebody to talk to, and you should call them up and talk to them. I do that every time that I see that, and a lot of people are very close to the edge, and suicide is permanent, and crises are not. We can go through a crisis, but you can't live after you killed yourself. And it has become an issue, and really it became very important to me. That original meme that I've been sharing, that was dear reader, whatever you're going through is important and your story matters. I didn't write that, but one of my meme makers did, but the sentiment was so powerful and strong, and every time I post it, the response is incredible, in that people need to hear it, and they feel it, and when I have called up people, it's always made a difference. I talked to this one guy. I don't even remember the phone call specifically, but later on, a long time later, it was a comment that, you called me and you talked to me, and I had a loaded gun in my hand, and he was going to end it. And, I didn't know that, and I didn't know when I talked to him, and we just chatted and talked about a lot of things, but just a simple intervention, standing up for the bullied. The internet culture is terrible. Trolls are horrible. It's frightening, the way people think they can talk to one another on the internet in an attempt to intentionally inflict emotional damage. And if you see that shit, try and call that shit. And if you see your friends doing it, and if you see your friends condoning misogyny or fucking racism, or they say some fucking bullshit, call them on that shit. I mean, yeah, I have racist friends, but, I make it fucking clear that I don't want to hear that shit. You don't talk that shit anywhere near me, because it ain't right. I mean, it's a pretty frightening time here in the world and in America, and the only way we're going to make it through is to stick together. And, I'm putting forth my campaign for what it's worth, and for however it can possibly be used for good, social change, through shameless self-promotion. But obviously, my campaign has become much bigger than my 5'11", 180-pound meat sack. Well, about 7 feet if you want to count the boot, of course, which I think we do. And, yeah. I just want people to know that people care. We're all in it together. We may have disagreements, but I think we also have a lot of things that we agree upon. And I think if we engage in respectful dialogue, we'll be able to hash out a reasonable position, and perhaps understand where people are coming from, instead of just, slamming entire political subgroups and just hating on, unless they're Nazis, of course. If they're Nazis, fuck them. I'm not saying you should punch them, but fuck them. Okay. But even fucking fascists, there is hope that perhaps they will. I mean, you hear about racists and skinheads and Nazis who come around, and hopefully more will, and all our problem relatives that we put up with over the holidays. And I don't know, life is good. Let's just try and make it better. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was, you guys are right. We did need this show really bad. You're getting a lot of fans here, Vermin. This is awesome.
Very lovely. I'll tell you, I'm on Twitter, as you know. My handle is @VerminSupreme. There's also the @ Free Pony Express, which is a fun thing to follow. I have a few funny Twitter followers that are putting out funny shit. Since this is on Facebook, also check out Vermin Supreme's Dank Meme Stash. That is a group. Check out Vermin Supreme for President. That's my blue check official campaign thing, meme group. I also have Juggalos for Vermin Supreme. If you type in the state you're from, the number 4, and Vermin Supreme, probably a group will come up. I'm trying to put together a 50-state strategy. I'm looking for state coordinators. I'm looking for, if you go to verminsupreme.com, you'll find a portal if you want to donate to my campaign. As I had mentioned earlier, as it becomes a real campaign, I need real money, like a real scumbag politician. And I guess I'm becoming a little bit more of one, because I'm asking for money. Got the book, iPonybook.com. You can get the book. If you give me campaign contributions, say $50, I give out premiums. I'll give you the book, or I'll give you a tie, shit like that. Whatever, you know. Check out. Have you seen the movie Who is Vermin Supreme?
I have, yeah.
I would like to plug that again, just for your
absolutely.
audience. If you have not seen Who is Vermin Supreme, it's on Amazon Prime and YouTube and Xbox, and it's a few bucks if you don't have the premium part. But it's a movie. It's a feature-length documentary about my life and my campaign and my activism and my work I do in Riot World, which we didn't even get to, in trying to keep crowds safe and all that shit. So yeah, watch the movie. It makes me look a little bit like a folk hero, but I'm willing to take that chance.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
And one thing, if you know any college kids, I'm a college speaking guy. I would, different student groups sponsor me to come out and do different presentations. I have the movies to show and all sorts of different things. And I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but just thank you very much for having me on your podcast here. And
absolutely. People put all your links in the comments. Looks like we have your book link, your YouTube, your Twitter, all that stuff in the comments.
Fantastic. And hopefully I'll be able, when I find this, I will read the comments and maybe comment on some comments if there are questions, if I can find it, and throw some more links on there. So yeah, I'll be looking.
Sure, I'll tag you as soon as it's up.
Okay, and I'll certainly be sharing it. So
thank you so much, Vermin. You're amazing. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to be on medical hiatus a little. I have surgery tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. So keep me in your thoughts. It's kind of a big one. They think there might be some cervical cancer stuff. So it's going to be an intense surgery. So keep me in mind. And thanks, Vermin. So tomorrow morning I'm going to be, doped up and in surgery. So I'm hoping to be back within a week. But I'll keep you updated on any future guests or anything like that. So thanks again for watching, you guys. Much love. Thank you again, Vermin, for coming on. This was awesome.
Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you. Take care, guys.